Well, good morning and welcome to Coffee Chat with David and Kylie Knight.
Hey, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us. Yes, today is Monday, April the 27th, 2020.
Wow, it's crazy.
Yeah.
April is almost over. What happened?
I don't know.
Yeah.
Is it really almost over?
Yeah, I know. It feels like the month that has gone on forever.
The month that never ends?
That's right. It is the month that never ends.
Yeah. Wow.
But we are glad you guys are with us today. Be sure to like and share our what's going on here. And be sure to let us know if you're here. I see Lindy Phillips is watching. Good to see you, my friend. And also be sure to use the hashtags Hello Nights and hashtag Cup of Awesome. Because that's what it is. We are, as you know, we love to try new things. So we are working on some new upgrades to our stuff, I guess.
Yeah, you can see we look a little different today.
Look slightly different. Hopefully the video's a little bit better.
Right.
That's what we're going for. If not, then it was a waste of $16. But whatever. Oh goodness! But we had a good weekend, right?
It was a great weekend. It was really nice.
Yeah, it was nice. We get to see.
Got outside for a little exercise.
Right.
See the world apart from our home.
Exactly. There's beyond.
Yeah.
Michael Ainsworth says, going, gone. I think he's talking about April. Agreed. It is going fast. And
Today's
Cody.
my brother's birthday.
It is your brother's birthday.
Yeah.
Happy birthday, Daryl.
Yep.
Yeah.
For him, it's almost over.
We hope you enjoyed your birthday, Daryl.
I think it is actually over. Yeah.
Yeah, that's true. Because Australia, they like to be ahead of everybody.
That's right. They're ahead.
Those groundbreakers. But yeah, we had a good weekend. We got some work done.
Church online. As everyone's doing.
Yep, exactly. We had several people ask about some virtual magic shows for us. So
we're going to be busy over the next couple of weeks.
We are going to be busy.
Between this in the morning and then shows in the evening.
Yeah, it's a lot of video. It's a lot of video.
But we love it.
We do love it.
To talk to people, interact.
Yeah, exactly. So be sure to drop some questions and comments. We are checking those. We have a billion monitors in here, so we can see all of that.
Right.
Someday we'll have them everywhere else too, but for now, that's where we are.
Cool.
Yeah. Oh, and we got a nice little some friends of ours from church dropped us off a beautiful little meal.
They did, with some ham and some side dish and a dessert as well. So all in one. So
yeah.
Thank you so much, because then I don't have to cook tonight.
Woohoo! Bonuses. That's right.
Yes, I love that.
Cool. Well, shall we get to our amazing, astonishing, fantastic guest for today?
We absolutely should.
Okay.
Yes.
So so we met this guy a couple of years back. He is a youth pastor. He's an instructor, and he's just a really super nice guy.
Yeah.
And his name is Pete Sutton, and we're going to bring him on because he's just fantastic. So let's see if we can do this, and let's see if we can unmute. Perfect. And there you are, Pete.
Hey, Pete.
Hey, David. Hey, Kylie. Good to see you this morning.
Good to see you.
Welcome to Coffee Chat. Well, it looks so beautiful.
Thanks.
Where you are. Are you outside?
I lucked out. This is springtime in Chicago, so roll the dice, and you never know what you're going to get. But today seems like a beautiful day. My kids I've got 6 kids. They're all inside doing e-learning, and my wife is, I would say refereeing. I don't know what the right word is. Moderating, whatever. And so I thought I might get some more quiet space out here. I do have 2 dogs that are very barky, so you might hear them in the background right now. Every time somebody walks by, they've got to greet everybody.
That is what they do.
To greet. But actually, all I hear is some birds chirping, which is just beautiful. And the weather looks so nice there. I'm jealous.
And that's not one of those digital overlays that you can get with Zoom now, right? Like you can get the backgrounds, you can get the backgrounds. We were talking about that earlier, right? Those are real birds.
The sound effects with those backgrounds is incredible.
That's right.
It's a virtual reality. I mean, it's almost as good as the real thing.
Exactly. Yeah. And where are you, by the way? You're like Illinois, right? Chicago area, or? Yeah,
we're in the Chicago suburbs. I live in St. Charles, and I serve at a church in Naperville. So the western suburbs out here, they're big, and you got to move around. And in Chicago area, you measure things by time, not miles. So I tell you how many miles we are for somebody, but it's always like I'm 45 minutes from here, 15 minutes from there. That's just the way life is out here.
Yeah,
that's true.
I hear you.
Good way to put it. We're like that in Dallas area as well.
True.
Actually, we were meant to be up your direction like this past
Earlier this month.
earlier
Yeah.
this month.
Yeah.
Aw.
Yeah.
We aim to
We'll
get
get
you
there.
up here soon.
Yeah.
Indeed.
Yeah.
Well, you guys just had us for a
Yeah.
virtual show, and that was
Yeah.
fun.
Not
We had a
quite as good as
blast
being
with
there
that.
in person, but it was close.
I tell you what, I was blown away at how kind of involved our kids were in it all. You know, you made it so interactive and interesting. You held their attention for the entire time.
Aw.
I was really impressed, and my kids had a blast. I had a number of
Good.
parents email me that next couple of days saying thanks for pulling that together.
Aw,
You know,
cool.
how creative, but man, it was a great experience for us.
I'm
And the
so glad to
kids
hear.
loved the Q&A.
Yeah,
That was a lot of fun. Your kids had some great questions
they
too.
really did. They were
Well,
fun.
and Jess keeps talking about it, you know, getting to talk card tricks with a real illusionist.
That's right.
Yes,
That's right.
exactly.
That's awesome.
Cool.
Well, cool. Well, let's chat with you. Enough about us. Let's
Yeah.
talk about Pete Sutton, the man, the myth, the legend.
All right.
So hey, let's talk first. Big picture. How did you come to Christ? Tell us your faith story. I'd love to hear more.
You know, I'm one of those people that is really blessed with a very boring faith story. And I think that's the best kind of faith story that there is. I have two parents who love Jesus and raised us in the church. You know, ironically enough, my mom and my dad were both very disillusioned with church and left the church until we were invited to church, and they resisted. So my neighbor actually invited us to go to a VBS. And my brother, my sister, and I have a twin sister and a brother who's a year younger. So we grew up kind of like triplets.
Wow.
My mom said, no, I really don't want to subject them to the church. And the neighbor said, well, they'll be out of your hair for 4 hours a day all week long. And my mom said, take them.
Done.
So we went to church and we came back talking about Jesus. And my mom just never imagined that church could be fun. And so my parents went and they kind of rediscovered their faith. And so from about 5 years old on, I was raised in the church. I don't remember a day that I didn't know Jesus. But there was a day where Jesus really became real to me. You know, when I was in 8th grade, I had this dream of playing professional soccer. And, you know, I was going to play for the U.S. national team. And I had all these wonderfully inflated dreams like most middle school students do. And I had a tumor in my knee that really jeopardized that. And the doctor said, you know, you'll have to have surgery. You'll be in the hospital for a week. You'll be in a cast and a brace, and you're going to be out of soccer for about a year. And I really just was angry at God for it. And people were praying for healing in my life. And in that season, God didn't heal me the way I thought he would. Instead, he shortened my recovery. And I was back out on the soccer field in about 4 months. And I never missed my high school season. I played high school ball, college ball. I had a blast. And, you know, I look back on that and realize that God's dreams for me are always bigger than my dreams. And they're never what I envisioned, but they're always better. And it was in that 8th grade freshman transition that I really, I would say I came to faith a long time ago, but I came to faithfulness right at that season where I just decided I'm going to trust the Lord and forget my soccer dream. Whatever God has in mind for me, I'm going to pursue it.
Wow. Wow. That is awesome.
Great story.
That is a great story.
I tell you,
Church
you know,
can be very fun.
yeah, absolutely. Well, we've been part of some phenomenal churches throughout my lifetime.
That's awesome.
Cool. So how did you know you were called to ministry?
Yeah, that's an interesting question. You know what? Earlier, when I was younger, I was never comfortable with that idea of being called because, like, my phone never rang. I never felt like God speak to me in a dream. There wasn't anything like that. But you know, throughout high school, like I said, you know, I decided that I was going to pursue God's dream for me, and whatever that was. And people just kept telling me, "Hey, you know what? You'd make a great youth pastor. You'd make a great youth pastor. You'd make a great youth pastor." And I always thought they were being kind and, hey, that's nice, you know, but I'm going to go do whatever God wants me to do. And that's when I realized that maybe God's using the important people in my life to direct my path. And so when I got to college and it came to picking, a college and a major and all that kind of stuff, I really took some inventory in my life and I realized I'm not a very good soccer player. And I wasn't very good at a whole lot of other things. And what God really made me good at all seemed to line up with youth ministry. And, you know, the Apostle Paul said, woe to me if I don't preach the gospel. And he had that kind of burning desire. I wish I had that kind of, like, obviously this is what I was meant to do. But for me, it's been kind of a reluctant, like, okay, God, if this is what you made me to do, I'll do it. And all along the way, I've loved it. I've been fulfilled by it. on a number of occasions, I've tried to get out of youth ministry, and God keeps pulling me back in. And you don't find a whole lot of 45-year-old youth pastors, junior high pastors at that.
True.
But I've tried to get out. But the reality is God keeps pulling me back in, and I'm grateful. My plan has never been ever actualized. It's always been God redirecting my life and putting me exactly where He wants me to be, and I couldn't be more blessed to do youth ministry. I never imagined having a house full of foster kids and adopted kids. I always thought that 2 would be great. Man-to-man coverage sounded easy. God's plan is it's always much different than mine, and in hindsight, always better.
It's so true. That's so true. We talk about that all the time, how
Yes.
we, the things that we're doing now, we never anticipated, but
No.
when you do the things that God truly has fashioned you to do, you do feel that sense of joy, and you feel that sense of completion, and it's it's always different, but
I know this
and you know what?
question
And the path to get there is hard, isn't it? Because you want to say, okay, I know this is going to be good,
right.
but really, God, another
you
stint in
sure?
youth ministry, and another, okay, another kid, really, okay.
Okay.
okay,
Yeah.
that's true.
I know this question wasn't on there, but real quick, what would you say to somebody who feels like they're getting called into ministry?
Oh wow.
Sorry to put you on the
a
spot.
couple of things. No, that's a great question. It's a question I get to answer a lot. As I teach youth ministry and disciple a lot of kids. I was on a Zoom the other night with a former student of mine who is now one of the directors of Crew out in Colorado, overseeing 3 or 4 universities, and watching him lead, and just so proud of him. Remembering the day when he said, "Hey, Pete, how do I know if I'm called into youth ministry?" And I said, Nick, that's a great question. If you can do anything else, go do it, because youth ministry is hard. Ministry is just hard.
Yep.
And if you're willing to do the really hard and put your hand to the plow and just go at it, go do it. But ministry is not for the weak-hearted. I keep seeing, you read these stories of pastors that have fallen morally. They've made horrible decisions with their lives, and they've not only shipwrecked their own life, but also the lives of others in their churches. And, I think ministry is one of those things that, people can go into it for so many selfish reasons. But if you feel really called into ministry and God is affirming that, the first thing I would say is go talk to trusted people in your life. Go talk to, your parents, your pastors, your elders at your church, and ask them, do you see this calling in me? What are my weaknesses? What are my blind spots? What do I need to work on? What's been the hardest thing? Talk to your pastor. What's been the hardest thing about being a pastor? Do you think I've got what it takes? Do you think that, my calling sounds like it's from God, or is this coming from me? Is this me wanting to be important? Is this wanting me to be special? Where are my motives, in this? And ask good people around you that know you well to kind of come alongside of you. The last thing, hey, pray. You can't make any decisions without a lot of time in prayer. So take some time to pray and fast and beg God to answer.
Yeah.
Oh, that's awesome advice. Thank you, Pete. Appreciate that.
That really is.
Yeah. I'm sure there's some people listening who may be feeling that little nudge.
Well, and it's true. I was just reading. I don't remember where it was, but I was just reading that whole idea of many people can go into ministry with very selfish reasons.
Yeah.
And you can't survive in ministry if you're pushing it. If God's not calling you to it, you're not gonna make it. You can fool a lot of people for a long time, but it'll catch up. So.
Well, David, that's another good point. Is that I think there's a lot of people that go into ministry with pure motives, but they're not healthy either.
Oh,
they've got wounds in their past. They've built some unhealthy habits. They're hiding. Good motives, great talents and gifts from the Lord. But if they're not healthy, man, ministry, because you've got to bear your own burdens, but you've also got to bear the burdens of others. And sometimes you do that silently. When somebody confides in you a secret or a struggle, they're calling you to make wise counsel, and you're just depleted. It's hard. So, a lot of people, I think, go into it with the right motives, but they go into it wounded or unhealthy. And I think that's a significant kind of obstacle that we're seeing today uncovered.
So true. So true. So How is your church adapting and adjusting to the outbreak that we are currently seeing ourselves in?
Yeah, I think just like everybody else, I mean, who'd have thought, 2, 3 months ago that we'd be where we are at right now? That America would be locked down, that nobody would be inside of churches, that we'd all be doing this online. I don't think anybody would have imagined it. So I think it's caught everybody by surprise. I think a lot of churches that have been on the cutting edge of ministry, the life churches and others that have been online and doing digital campuses, they're positioned really well for this. But the vast majority of us are not. We really are blessed by the fact that our church is a larger church. We've got 4 campuses, and we've got a digital presence. We've got a live feed that we have. So for us, the adjustment wasn't as vast on the Sunday morning kind of thing. So we quickly, audibled and pulled together an online service, and that wasn't too hard. I think the real tough thing is being a church, not just producing a church service, because you can watch some of the best pastors in the world online. I can sit down and hear, worship from some of the greatest worship leaders in the world. I don't really need to plug into this or that feed, but I do because of the people. So the real question I think in ministry today is not how do we produce something that looks like church, but how do we actually do the church? How do we connect? And so for us, one of the things that we've done as a church is committed to making personal contact on a regular basis. So we've divided up contact lists and groups, and we're making contact on a regular basis. We're trying to position our folks to do online groups, but online games. We're producing a lot of not content, because they don't need to see my talking head on a screen. I mean, for heaven's sake, my kids watch enough talking heads on a screen. What they need is somebody that's going to give them something that's going to be interactive, that's going to allow them to connect in a real and deep, meaningful way with people in the church, but most importantly with Jesus. I mean, that's what church is about. My job as a pastor is to provide an environment where kids can connect with Jesus, where they have an encounter with him. And if I'm not doing that in this digital season, I'm a YouTuber. I'm just an entertainer, and that's not what we want to be as the church. And that's one of the things, and David, I've told you this before, it's one of the things I love about your ministry, you and Kylie, is that it's not just entertainment. It's incredibly entertaining, but the ministry that you two maintain is what really attracted me to you guys early on, and kind of inspired me. But yeah, I think that's what we all need to be doing, is figuring out a way to engage with one another and usher the presence of Christ into those encounters, so that people really encounter Christ. So at our church, what we're doing, we're doing a lot of drives, food drives, clothing drives. We did a book drive this last week. And we know that a lot of the places like that are closed, like the Goodwills and the Salvation Armies. They can't receive, but churches can. So we're becoming the new distribution spot for a lot of those places. We're distributing things to the homeless shelters still. We're keeping them very well stacked. The food banks in the area. We want to be a conduit for all of the riches of heaven to go to the people that need it most. And so I think our church, the thing that I'm most proud of, and this is something that I'm not even very much involved with, is that we've maintained a real life on life, practical ministry model that I didn't think was possible during this season. So we've got some really amazing people on our staff, and I'm just really proud of our church.
Oh, that's amazing.
So good. So good.
We're seeing the church stepping up in a time like this, where they're saying, we are here, we have not gone away, we're not a building, we're a people, and we want to love God and love others. So good.
So good. So proud of you guys. You have the last one?
So what do you feel are the benefits we might see coming out of this pandemic?
Yeah, I thought on that question a bit, and it's pure speculation, right? I mean, we're all hoping there's great benefits. I think one of the benefits is that it's forced a lot of churches to kind of step into the next millennium, if you will, digitally and social media and online stuff. I mean, by and large, I think it's forced a lot of churches to do that. I think it's challenged the notion of church being a safe, secure thing in our culture. I think in America, we kind of have this idea that the church will always be here because we live in a democracy. We live in a free culture, free country, and freedom of religion is protected. And all of a sudden now we're realizing, gosh, what a treasure it is to gather together in a local church. And I think one of the byproducts is going to be, we really value that. Those that are really, truly believers. Something that's said in John 15 is that, God, the gardener, prunes the tree, and a tree that produces fruit is what the gardener prunes. So the church has been fruitful in many ways here, but I think this is a season of pruning, which I think is a benefit because, what the gospel says is that when we prune things, it's so we can make room for more growth, more fruit. And so I think some of the benefits are that we're pruning in this season, and we're going to see more space for more fruit. You're going to see more avenues and vehicles for outreach and connection, more gratitude for the church, which I think is really due, in this season. The interesting thing, if I could, I'm gonna pontificate a little bit. I was comparing this season with the COVID crisis and the lockdown and the shelter in place and everything to when the printing press was invented. Now, this might seem like a really long leap, but if you think about it, before that time, literacy wasn't a big deal. People didn't read. If you wanted to hear the word of God, you had to go hear the word of God. You had to go to the church, and the pastor, the priest would preach, and you would hear it. And that's about the only place you could hear it. You could encounter it. So when the printing press was invented and people began printing the Bible, it did two things. It meant that the Bible could be put in the hands of lay people, which means that the priest, this priestly class that interpreted scripture, was in some sense not necessary, obviously incredibly important, but now people could encounter the word of God on their own. And it created a need for literacy, where people had to learn how to read because they wanted to get their hands on this book and read it for themselves. And so that season, what happened in the church, I'd imagine there was a lot of people that stood around and said, you know what, this is not the way the Bible's supposed to be. This is not the way the church is supposed to be. This is a compromise. We can't let lay people read the Bible. We can't let, the pastor, his position be compromised, the preacher and teacher. And I keep hearing that kind of thing today. The church should be gathered together. We should be in one place. We should be, we shouldn't be online, which I understand. There's a place for those kind of ideals. But when something like this happens, God's going to use it, just like he did, obviously, the printing press. And we look back now and we think that's a ridiculous analogy, but it's really not. I think that the concern about putting the Bible in the hands of lay people was probably a pretty significant one at the time. And now we have this opportunity where ministry is being put in the hands of lay people. It's not just churches. Anybody can hop online on a YouTube channel or a Facebook Live and do ministry and provide something that's inspiring and spirit-filled. And I think one of the results is going to be, we're going to see an explosion of ministry with people like you asked earlier. And if somebody wants to go into ministry, they don't have to go to college. They don't have to be picked up they can do this and be an incredible blessing to others if, of course, God wills it and God blesses it. So I think we're going to see some really interesting new ministry. And I think we're going to have to be really prayerful and discerning and discovering kind of which vehicles God's blessing and how he's doing it.
It's amazing how much innovation has come out. If you look back in time where we've gone through other recession and times of struggle throughout the country, around the world, there's so much innovation that's spurred from those times.
Well, and so much ministry and those kind of things were spurred by the the Great Depression early in the last century. Yeah. Great ministries were born then. So I'm looking forward to seeing what becomes of it all.
Mm-hmm.
Us too.
Cool.
Us too. Well, cool. Well, now it is time to go into our lightning round, and I mentioned that we're doing some new stuff with video, and so I think my video is actually hanging up. So we have to see if I can fix that really quickly before we go into that. So I'm going to step away for just half a second, and then we're going to do our lightning round.
Look at that super cool background you got there.
Exactly. All right, let's see.
I like your background.
I know, your background is beautiful.
I should take a snapshot of it.
Yeah, maybe.
All right,
I have a buddy that did something really funny. He shot a video of himself walking into the room where he does his video stuff and looking like really sheepishly like, oh, sorry, I didn't realize you were on the phone. And then he leaves the room and he puts that behind him when he's on a call. So that he'll turn around and watch himself walk in the room. It's hilarious.
That's funny. Yeah, I
He's
saw.
got a great sense of
Yeah, I know.
humor.
I saw somebody do that on one of the video things. But all right, so let's hit 5 questions, and
I'm ready.
everything is hanging up on me here. Oh, there we go.
No.
All right. Oh, I missed my video. Oh well.
Technology, so fun.
Yeah, it's one of those
See the
days where
things that we're learning, right?
exactly.
Yeah.
Ah,
It makes me envy those people that have an entire tech team around them to do this, right?
true.
Yes, so are we.
True.
I wish
You
we
watch
had
those
a
big
team
churches,
to take care of
right?
all this.
Exactly.
I think it creates a little ministry envy too. You're like, man, they're doing it so well, but you don't realize like behind the camera is like an entire team of
There's
people.
so many people.
Exactly.
Seriously.
And then there's
It's me
some
and
of
an
us
iPad.
going, I'm going to do it all.
Exactly.
If I had 2 more arms, I'd be okay. I
Right.
could do all this at once.
Yeah.
All right.
Right.
So let's hit this. What are you binge watching right now? You've got a ton of people in your house. Are you binge watching
Yeah.
anything?
I don't watch TV. This is a bummer of a question. I don't ever turn the TV on. I am not a TV guy. But my kids binge watch Teen Wolf. My daughter's really getting into that. My wife loves The Good Doctor, so I'll fall asleep at night to that. She likes to watch that at night. My sons are into sciencey stuff, so one of them is into Rick and Morty, which I don't think should be watched by anybody, but
I've never seen that
he
one.
loves that twisted science humor.
Oh, okay.
That's
But
awesome.
I'm not a TV watcher, so it's a disappointing answer. Sorry.
No, that's a great answer. I love it.
So next question, if you could have any other job than the one you have right now, what would it be?
This is gonna sound funny, but I'd be a carpenter. I love building things. I love using my hands. I love turning my brain off and just building something. And at the end of the day, seeing something produced, like a tangible, I made this. Like ministry isn't that. It's the opposite. It's you work really, really hard all day long and then you wonder, whoa, what did I make? And then
Is there something recently that you made?
I made myself a bookshelf. Because I had to be home, so I had to have somewhere to put all my books. So I made myself a bookshelf early on, so I had all my resources right there.
Oh, nice.
Finding space for all the books is a common problem.
The nice thing is my bookshelf has a 1 foot by 1 foot footprint, and it goes straight up.
Oh,
but I don't have a lot of space.
Yeah, that's smart.
That's awesome. Okay, what is your favorite to-go order? You go to your favorite restaurant. What do you, because you can't eat it there, so what are you taking home to eat?
We've got 6 kids, so like the eating out isn't something we do a lot. But if I ever sneak out on my own, I'm going to somewhere that has great fries and a great burger. So I would do Five Guys. There's a couple great burger places around here, but I love good French fries and a really good burger.
Okay.
You see me in my car kind of rolling away on my burger and fries.
Precious.
Yeah, exactly. And we have Portillo's up here. I don't know if you guys have
Oh,
Portillo's.
yeah.
Portillo's is like, if you ever get in the Chicago area, you got to go to a Portillo's. You know, Italian beef. Their burgers are great. Their hot dogs are wonderful. The fries are okay, but the sandwiches are fantastic.
Okay.
Nice.
Cool.
All right, you were talking about your bookshelves and all the books you have. So what are you reading right now?
All right, I kind of have like I read a lot of things all at the same time. So right now I'm reading Emotionally Healthy Spirituality by Peter Sutton.
Good book.
I'm going to talk about pastors needing to be healthy. I'm reading Amplified Leadership by Dan Ryland. We're doing that as a staff. Yeah. This is one of my kids. This is Eden.
Oh, hey.
Eden.
I'm studying some Christology, so I'm reading a book called Jesus Journey and Superheroes Can't Save You. Whoa, that's mine. Oh. Hang on, he wants to hear everything. I'm sorry. And then I'm actually, I love doing biography, and I'm actually working through a biography on the Caesars in Rome.
Oh, very cool.
History. So those are my 5 categories that I've been diving into. So something leadership wise, something spiritual and inspirational, something personal development, and something historical.
I like it. I like
Very
it.
Good.
Yeah.
All right.
You know why I don't watch TV.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, you don't have any time.
Much better.
Last question. They decide to make a movie of your life. Who plays you?
Oh, that's a funny question. So I had to ask my kids this question. I've been told before. Do you hear? Oh, I'm sorry. That's often. I've been told before I look like John Cryer, and Jim Carrey, and they both agreed that if anybody played me, it would have to be Jim Carrey.
I can see that. I can see that.
Because I don't.
Daddy, I want to hear.
Well, you can't hear it. Not right now.
Oh,
So she must be on a study break. She's on her rollerblades.
I see that.
She's ready to go.
That's awesome.
So yeah, I would say Jim Carrey.
Okay, love it, love it. Cool, man. Well, hey, that is the last of our questions for you. Thank you for hanging out with us
today. It's been a blast
today.
hanging with you guys. Yeah, what a pleasure.
Yeah. Well, we hope you have a fantastic rest of your day.
Thank you.
Hi.
I hope I have some tasks on my task list now.
Yeah, you do. All right, we will talk to you later. Thanks, Pete.
You're welcome. God bless.
Bye.
All right, take care.
Oh, he was fun. Oh my goodness. Oh, he is such a great guy. We love getting to know him and hanging out with him, and we are looking forward to. He keeps talking about bringing us back, bringing us to his church in the fall. So hopefully that'll happen. Because we're lagging. Yeah, I gotta fix that. So, but hopefully our audio is still coming through okay.
Hopefully.
So I know nobody said anything. They just let it go. They're like, oh, that's just the nights. They're just slow. Anyways, tomorrow we will have Stephen Miller with Stephen Miller Music on. He's an awesome worship leader and pastor, and you guys are going to love him. And we're going to hang out and chat with him about all things stuff. So be with us tomorrow. And then my computer's dying. Everything is going crazy here.
Tech has had enough of this as well.
It's done. It's out of here. All right, guys. Well, thank you for joining us. We will see you tomorrow on our next edition of Coffee Chat.